Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Would you please stand for our opening ceremony? We will begin with an invocation by Brigadier General Ed Brandt, pastor of Lely Presbyterian Church.
Let us pray. On this day, gracious God, we are thankful for men and women who have raised their right hand and swore an oath to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. We are grateful for people who wear the uniform and travel around the world to defend our freedoms. We give thanks for families who support them as they make their travels around the world. And on this day, we are also grateful for Gold Star families who still endure the loss of their loved ones from their service. On this day, we are thankful that we can honor our veterans and gather together and celebrate and give thanks for all that they have done throughout the world and for our nation. May we always be grateful. And in this area, we are thankful for men and women who respond to Hurricane Ian, for those still digging out, for friends and strangers who made their way here to Naples and Fort Myers to help people rebuild. It's the strength of our community that makes us shine as a light for others to follow. And so, gracious God, bless our food, our time together, for in your most precious name we pray. Amen.
Presentation of the colors by VFW Post 7721.
Detail. Mark. Time. Mark. Detail. Halt. Left. Face. Present. Mark.
The national anthem by the Four Flats.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare that was bursting in the air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Pledge of Allegiance. And the Pledge of Allegiance by Colonel Charles Seuss.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's my pleasure to welcome you to our 5th annual Salute to Veterans, and welcome also to the Free State of Florida, governed by a formal naval officer who meets every challenge from COVID-19 to Hurricane Ian with courage, leadership, organization, and a can-do attitude that makes him the best governor in the United States of America. He has the ultimate respect for those who are serving and have served to keep this nation a free nation, a constitutional republic. We are indebted to our governor for his service, and we all know what we have to do next Tuesday is make sure that we get him back in office. I'd like to remind everybody in this room that this event, the proceeds from this go to our scholarship programs and to Collier County veterans groups. We're an easy club to join. Our membership and application forms are on the back of the program. We meet the first Friday of each month at 7:30 a.m. right here at the Naples Hilton. We have great speakers, and we are dedicated to serving and saving this republic. And now, this is a great pleasure for me, and it's only pretty hard for me not to be very emotional about this, a very special presentation to a man who exemplifies the American dream. He's dedicated to God, family, and country. A truly great American. And to make this presentation, I would like to invite to the platform Brigadier General Ed Brandt to make this presentation.
This is truly an honor. As you know, the Republicans Men's Club gathers on the first Friday of nearly every month. And at that meeting, a rousing call to action is given by Jim Carter or Russell Tuff. The Hilton staff provides stellar service. Mike Nadolski shakes everyone down for a couple more bucks just to make sure we have money. But without fail, an older gentleman is called forward to lead the gathered in the Pledge of Allegiance. He recites the pledge with gusto and conviction. You know him. His name is Charlie Seuss. Charlie comes to Naples and to this club raised in a household of service. He grew up in a military family. His father, Otto, served his country in the trenches of France during the Great War, World War I. The country he served was not the United States of America, it was Germany. I implore you to listen to this story, for it's woven with strands of sacrifice and service. Charlie's father was Jewish, and this proud man had to witness and endure his son, Charlie, being forced to sit apart from all the other kids in school. He had to watch as his son's friends were no longer allowed to play with him. And to his father, Otto, this would all pass. After all, the German people, advanced, educated, and accepting of all religions, would never allow the scourge of Nazism to continue. But the day came when the Gestapo arrived at the town central store that his dad owned. Charlie watched as his father was led away. He didn't know if he would ever see his father again. Charlie's father was saved by a fellow World War I veteran, and his dad left for America. First, he came here to establish himself with work, and in the fall of 1938, Hitler stopped allowing Jews to leave Germany. Many good friends helped Charlie and his mother escape. And unfortunately, Charlie's aunts and uncles, his grandparents, and lone cousin perished in the camps. Sometimes we never fully grasp the endorsement or the conviction behind words. For him, a new life was born in the United States. Charlie applied for and was accepted into OCS, Officer Candidate School, and became a second lieutenant at the age of 18. He traveled from the warm waters of Guam to the cold mountains of Korea. And Charlie's service got him two things. Well, number one, it got him a GI Bill. And secondly, a chance to meet a pretty gal named Laura. And while not always going on active duty, he served in the reserves, and his son Stephen says one of the best things was going to West Point for an Army football game. Charlie retired a full bird colonel. People have many achievements in life. There is service to the country, there's pursuing a career, but Charlie's achievements are twofold. First, he moved from Hitler's Germany, surviving the Holocaust, serving the country in the South Pacific and Asia, building all kinds of things. And secondly, and the most important thing is, he raised a stellar family. Charlie and Laura are the parents of 3, grandparents of 9, and great-grandparents of 24. And so, Charlie, the Men's Republican Club is honored to recognize you for your service. We're grateful for your witness and for your friendship. And so now, when you hear Charlie Seuss lead a group of people in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, now you know what that pledge is and what it means to him coming to this country, embracing freedom, and living a life of his dreams. Please join me in honoring Colonel Charlie Seuss. You want to say a couple words?
What am I going to say?
I don't know.
I don't know, whatever you want
What do you want to say? I'll hold this one. Okay, got it. Right here, buddy.
Well,
Right here.
they say I'm supposed to say a couple of words. It's kind of a big surprise. One thing, though, I just want to correct you. 25 great-grandchildren, not 24. I have to correct that, right? Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. One of the greatest things that ever happened to us, of course, when I came to the United States, and we still think about it today, the greatest thing that happened to our family, that we were saved by the greatest nation in the world, and which it still is, and hope will continue to be today, right? The United States of America, there's no other nation in the world as ours. And all of us did. I don't have to tell any of you this, right? We all know that. And actually, I'm not much of a big speaker, but I don't really know what else to say except just thank you very much. I appreciate all of you and love everyone here, right?
It's an honor for me to introduce another distinguished leader of our country's military, Rear Admiral Tony Cothron, who spent 31 years as a national intelligence officer. Now let me highlight some of his career and some of his commands because it is really extensive. He served as the executive assistant to the Director of National Intelligence. He was the 62nd Director of Naval Intelligence. He was commander of the Office of Naval Intelligence, command of the U.S. European Command's Joint Analysis Center. He has many operational experiences in his background. Some of the key things, he was involved in Desert Storm aboard the USS George Washington. He was Chief of Staff of Intelligence during the combat operations for Operation Allied Forces against the former Republic of Yugoslavia. He was always involved in the collection of analysis and dissemination of timely, relevant, and productive intelligence for our national joint and fleet forces. He is a graduate of Tennessee Middle State University and the Naval War College. Today, he is the Associate Professor of Government and the Director of National Security and Intelligence for Liberty University's Helms School of Management. His wife, Elizabeth, is also a Navy veteran. They have 2 sons and 1 daughter-in-law. And today, he is going to discuss with us the perspective on U.S. intelligence and national security. Please welcome Rear Admiral Tony Cothron.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks very much. Wow, this is an impressive group. My wife told me to be careful with this group, so I'll try to do that. But thank you all. It's a real honor for me to be here. I appreciate the chance to come down here. We've been down here on vacations a couple times in Naples. It's a beautiful place. And really humbled to meet the World War II veterans here and the other veterans. Charlie, it's great to get to know you and talk to you a little bit. What a great story. What a great honor for the club to do that here. So big week next week, right? We're going to see what happens, right? So we'll see how this thing goes. I've got a few visuals here to help you. I'm used to doing this and briefing with slides, so and maybe even a little video here at the end. But I wanted to was asked to talk about national security. If you go on the internet, start Googling national security, you don't really get a lot, right? What is national security? We tend to think about the military, but I want to talk to you a little bit more broader perspective on that as we go through it. Because I really think national security isn't just our military. It really is the government and the people. All of it together really has to work together if we're going to have a strong national security. You just can't have defense without having a strong government and a strong people. Now, if you look at the military, there's a lot of characteristics that we can talk about, of course. Certainly the capabilities, the weapon systems, the advanced things we have, the capacity of those, how many of those we have, how many fighter planes, how many aircraft carriers, how many tank divisions, how many Marine riflemen, they're a part of it as well too. All those have to come together, of course, and they have to have, the technology that's really important. And what I learned certainly working in the defense industry after I retired about in 2008 is how vital our national industries are in creating our military capability. There's a lot of bad press out there about our greedy contractors, but the truth is, our contractors, our defense industry is what enables and creates a military capacity, okay? We have to have that. Now, our system isn't very good right now. We're very slow at building things. Our latest aircraft carrier has taken about 10 years for its first deployment, way too far. We haven't delivered an aircraft carrier on time, on budget, since the 1980s, since Theodore Roosevelt was delivered, which is the ship I was on in Desert Storm, okay? A lot of reasons for that. Most of it is in the bureaucracy in the Pentagon and the system we have. A lot of ideas on how to changing that. But as I'll show you a little bit later, our competitors are outbuilding us and in some ways outperforming us. The Chinese, I'll talk a little bit more about them, but they just claim that their latest helicopter is better than our Black Hawk helicopter, that it employs better technology. So technology is really key, and it really has enabled our entirety of our defense. The other thing that's really important, of course, is our people, our manning, okay? And as many of you probably are aware, this year we're failing to meet our quotas for recruiting in almost all the services, okay? The youngsters aren't joining. The pool of youngsters is well below the qualified youngsters who meet the physical standards, the mental standards, the educational standards just isn't there. And the Pentagon, in its wisdom, has done things, because they can. They've created a means now to go look at every youngster's, all their medical records, all their pharmaceutical records, everything. They're looking at all that data and then deciding if they can let them join or not. And just the institution of that new methodology has diminished the pool of recruits, okay, in a way that probably shouldn't have been done, okay? So manning is a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem. And manning, as well as training, is what gets down to the readiness of our forces. And the readiness is something we're struggling with. If you talk to the active duty forces, if you look at it, I talked to a lot of friends still in the Navy. They're deploying over and over and over again, okay? And we've used them up in a lot of different ways, particularly our Special Forces folks over the last 20 years, sending them to Afghanistan and Iraq. We've worn them out, okay? We've worn them out. And so we're suffering there. The last thing, of course, in the foundation of our military is the leadership, okay? Okay? If we don't have good leaders, you don't have a good military force, okay? And we could probably talk a lot about that, and you could have your opinions on that. I think we could do a little bit better than we're doing today. I worked for some great leaders in my time in the Navy. I did okay. I made a lot of mistakes. I got corrected. But when I see some of the things that I see today, like a service chief stand up and defend on his reading list the book Anti-Racism by Abraham Kennedy and says he's read it, I get really, really not happy, okay? That's not what we need in our service. We need a team. We need an absolute team. The Heritage Foundation released a report just a few weeks ago, and I put together a little graphic that showed their report on the state of our military. It's a really sad statement. It lists and assesses our Army as being marginal in its capabilities. It lists our Navy as being weak, of having less than 300 ships when we need at least 400 or 500 ships and way too few aircraft. It says our Marine Corps, thank goodness, as you would expect, is doing okay. But our Air Force, it says, is very weak. Now, this isn't the government's assessment. They will tell you we're doing fine, okay? But this is an independent, non-profit groups. But from the folks I talk to, and from my perspective on this, actually it's pretty charitable, okay? We don't assess the Space Force. Of course, they're pretty new. We're actually pretty good in space right now. And thanks to the commercial sector, probably even a little bit stronger. But space is very fragile. And our adversaries have capabilities ready to take that out because they know how vital the space architecture is to everything we do. All of these cruise missiles that we fire and the precision targeting, our ability to connect around the globe, it relies on the space segment entirely. And if that goes away, I'm not sure how we're even going to be able to fight. Okay, that's going to be a problem. We've got so dependent upon that. Okay, so that's the assessment on the military. So let's go back to the other elements of national security here, and let's talk about the government. Okay, but when we have really attacks on our First Amendment, our Fourth Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendments, we've got problems, right? The censorship that's going on, the news this week that we've got, the Department of Homeland Security has a portal that you can log into and say, hey, my friend Jim Carter here, his posts, his social media, I don't like them. Please take them down, Facebook. Okay? That's what our government is doing. I don't think that's in line with the Constitution and the First Amendment as we know it, okay? So we've got a lot of capabilities. And I was personally involved after 9/11. And on 9/11, I was in England. Our country was attacked. We came together. We did some amazing things to go find the terrorists. I was in command of the U.S. European Command Joint Analysis Center. And so over a video teleconference, I'm talking with the 4-star who's in Stuttgart, and he gives me a very simple order. I'm his intelligence component commander. I have 1,000 people there in England. He gives me a very simple order. He says, Captain, I want to know where every terrorist is in Europe and Africa. Well, the veterans know when you get an order like that, what do you do? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay? You get to work. And I had a crack team of people there, and after 9/11, they would run through a wall for whatever I asked them to do. Okay? And we did some amazing things, creating what we call the trade craft. How do you find, an individual in any country all over 92 countries in Europe and Africa? How do you find the networks? Okay? And we created computer systems and applications, but basically we made it very simple, and we said, I'm going to find, first of all the groups in each country. I'm going to find all the terrorists in each country, and then I'm going to find the individuals who are the highest priorities that we can go find. okay? And we set out using all the signals intelligence and human intelligence and imagery intelligence and working with our allies. We created, not just where I was at, but across the intelligence community and with Congress, creating things like the Patriot Act, we created some very sophisticated means to go find individuals and stop bad things from happening to our country. Have we been attacked since 9/11, 2001 in this country? A major attack by a terrorist group? We haven't, okay? And part of that is due to the great work of our national security system across the globe, okay? As bad as you want to talk about the FBI, what they did in Mar-a-Lago, right, and everything else, there's some great patriots working in our national security system still today, okay, who've kept our country safe, and we need them to continue to keep it safe, right? But these tools that we've created over the last 20 years, okay, in the digital age, and by the way, all this great technology, who else is using it? All our adversaries. The terrorists use it. China's using it, right? And so those tools, just like you don't give a chainsaw to a 5-year-old, right? They have to be supervised. They have to be used carefully, right, for the right reasons. So the oversight is really important, okay? So that's our government, of course, laws, justice. We could talk a lot about that. I just do also want to mention our allies. And of course, we all watched last August as we got out of Afghanistan, okay? And that was a signal to our allies around the world about where we are and what we're doing right now, okay? We cannot have a strong national security without good allies who trust us and know that we will do what we will say we will do, okay? Very critical. Last column there, under my niece and her little boy, had to put some people in there, special to me, but you know, it is our people who make this country strong, okay? But and the people part of this national security architecture we're looking at represents everything we have in this great country. You know, and every time I go fly and look across the land, I think about how blessed we are with this country. The land we have, the wealth we have. If you look at the rack and stack of the wealth per capita of Americans versus the rest of the world, there's nothing close to this, okay? And it's all built on the freedoms that we have, but the energy we have here in this country, the oil, the gas, the economy we've built based on a capitalist system, okay, that unfortunately across most of the universities in this country today, the professors are saying capitalism is bad, socialism is good. Okay, not at the university I'm at, but you're going to hear that, okay, across everywhere. Our agriculture, our manufacturing, of course, but what have we done with our manufacturing? We've, of course, shipped it all off, including our drug manufacturing. It's all in China now, as we found out during COVID, okay? We've given some critical abilities that we've built up in this country to our adversaries, okay? And then, of course, there's the press and the media, and I probably don't need to spend too much time on that to see that's in the shape that's in today. But let me go now, because I'm an intel officer, I always like to focus on the threat, and the threat is the other component of our national security. What are we looking at? And this is what I want to focus on. I could talk about Ukraine, we could talk about Iran or North Korea, but I believe China is the real problem. That's the existential problem, okay? This is their vision. This is what they say. No big secret. You don't need the CIA to go in and figure out what China is doing. They want to rule the world. They want the entire world to kowtow to them. Okay? A whole new world system, and the China dream is where they're going. And that guy on the top there, Xi Jinping, just a couple of weeks ago, they had the Chinese Communist Party had their 20th Congress. And Xi Jinping was inaugurated, celebrated for the first time since Chairman Mao with his third term. He kicked out every one of his political opponents. Now, it's one party, but within that party, there's fighting, there's bickering, and there's factions. Well, Xi Jinping got rid of those factions. And in the Politburo, the 7 guys that rule, they're all his guys. They're every one of them. And that guy being dog-walked out of the 20th Party Congress, that's former president, former head of the Communist Party, Hu Jintao, the guy that Xi Jinping relieved. Here he is publicly humiliating and having him dragged out of the Congress in front of not only 2,000 people in the party, but the entire world. Why do you think he did that? The official word, well, he wasn't feeling well. You believe that, you know, I've got land to sell you. Okay? He's probably still alive, but you'll never see him again. Okay? You're never going to see him again. But that's a statement, just like if you watch that movie, what's The Untouchables, when the guy goes around the baseball bat, Al Capone. Okay? That's a statement. I'm in charge. Don't mess with me. Okay? So that's the Chinese Communist Party, and here's their strategy. Here's where I want you to really focus, understand this. This is not just some academic piece. If you've got this dream to lead the world, you have to have a strategy to do that. This is their strategy. It's actually published in a book in 1999. Again, no state secret. We can read it. If you would, take the time, just read this. But here's what they say. It starts with political warfare. And it starts with the fact that, as the author says, in unrestricted warfare, there are no rules. Everything's open. So we're not talking about military warfare here. We're talking about everything other than the military. And in some ways, some parts of me says we over-focus on the military and we're not paying enough attention to the psychological warfare, the public opinion and media warfare, the economic warfare, the biological warfare. Why are we sending money to China to do biological research to a country that has said we're going to conduct biological warfare on our enemy and the United States is our enemy? Why are we doing that? Okay? This is their published strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Drug warfare. It's very interesting. I had my students teaching them this and doing some research, and one of the groups did a study on the drugs coming across the borders, okay, and the opioid deaths, and they had this little chart that shows how it goes up like this. You've seen those charts, right? Opioid deaths in this country are completely out of control, 100,000 last year. Well, I was looking at the timeline on the bottom, and I realized that the line starts to go vertical right after Xi Jinping takes over. I mean, he took over in 2012. In 2014, the line for opioid deaths starts to go like this. Now, that's not causation, it's not causal, but it's, in this intel officer's mind, it's very suspicious, okay? Because it's part of his strategy. Now, if you have a strategy, you have to have operations, and here's some of the operations they're doing on us today. The first one is elite capture. Yep, let's get the president's son on our payroll. Okay, he's just one of them. Let's get Bill Gates and his wealth, you know, shaking hands there with Xi Jinping. Okay, Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock. All of our investment dollars, let's make sure we're capturing him and get him in here. Okay? Let's get every congressman we can, every city mayor, every president of university, and let's invite them. Let's pay their way for a visit to China for this China-US Exchange Foundation. Okay, that sounds so nice. And we Americans love other countries. We like positive foreign relations, right? But when China's paying your way, giving you money, publishing your books, you know, the last time I heard, there's no free lunches, okay? And they're not doing this out of the largesse of their treasury. This is all part of a calculated campaign. Let's capture all the leaders. Let's get them to love us. Let's get them to talk positive about China. Okay? Let's put our Confucius Institutes to teach Chinese language and culture. That's all we're doing. We're just being friendly. Oh, but you can't talk about Tiananmen Square. You can't talk about the 100 million people that Chairman Mao killed. You can't talk about anything that the Communist Party doesn't like. Okay? And we allow that to happen on our campuses, and we allow that to happen in our country. We allow elected politicians and elected state officials to travel to China, paid for by the Chinese Communist Party. Okay? Media and technology, they're all bought in, every one of them. Okay? And they're giving China the technological ability to do continuous surveillance on every citizen in the country. Okay? If you're in China and you have a citizen, you have your phone, it has to be registered. Every phone has to be registered with China. If you're walking down the street, facial recognition. You know, if you say something bad about China, then your social credit score goes down. And then maybe you can't get a job, or you can't even buy food. Okay? If you're not doing exactly what the party wants you to do, you will pay for it, because the party's in control, okay? And our technology is allowing that to happen. Belt and Road Initiative is China's plan to go out across the world and basically debt trap them into buying their ports. They own the port of Piraeus, Greece. They own the port in Sri Lanka. They own major airfields in Africa. And again, when a Chinese company owns something, it's the Chinese Communist Party who owns it. And they will do what the Chinese Communist Party wants them to do. So this Belt and Road Initiative, funded out of these BlackRock investments over there, is taking over the world. Then you've got TikTok and Huawei, okay? Boy, talk about a wonderful, from an intelligence perspective, covert operation. You know, hey, I actually thought about this about 10 years ago. I was thinking, you know, if I was really devious, I'd create this software. I thought of it as a game software, and I'd distribute it out there, and it would be my spy tool. Well, that's what TikTok is. Okay? All those videos, and I don't think this crowd's really probably using much TikTok, but maybe your grandchildren are, okay? But they're doing all these videos. What is China doing with that? That's all the data that you need to start making your algorithms smarter so that you can enhance your artificial intelligence capability, okay? You hear about artificial intelligence all the time. I can tell you from working through this, the company I was working with was doing a lot of work in this area for the intelligence community. And what you need is lots of data. The more data you get, the more you can train your algorithms to get smarter and more precise. And when you combine this artificial intelligence technology with things like, well, China stole all of the security background investigations from the Office of Personnel Management. You know? Like 1 million security background investigations. You know, when you do a background investigation for a top secret clearance, they want to know everything about you, right? Not just your social security number, everywhere you've ever lived, all your relatives, all their phone numbers, all their addresses. So somewhere in Chinese Communist Party database is Tony Cothron's, all that data is there, and it's running through an algorithm. So if they decide, well, hey, we saw this video he did in Naples, we don't like that, let's go harass him. Let's go turn his bank account off. Let's go hit that. They have the technical ability to go do that, okay? Stealing the high ground is what they're doing, right? You're using our technology to get the high ground in almost every area, and we continue to sell it to them. It just doesn't seem to make much sense to me. How about religion in China? Taking down the cross, putting up Xi Jinping's picture. Families in China today, and there are many who are religious, all Christians, different religions, okay, can't take your children to church. Cannot take your children. You can go, although that church is supervised, but you can't take your children because we don't want this religious stuff to continue. Because there's only one religion in China, the Chinese Communist Party. Okay. Here's their GNP, how, it's pretty, again, we brought them into the World Trade Organization. The theory has been for 50 years, if we just engage China, they'll come around. It ain't working, folks. It ain't working. Okay, their economy's growing, and they're building tremendous capability. Xi Jinping is focused on Taiwan. He wants Taiwan back. Why? Well, it's geopolitically important where it lies, just off the coast. It's also important because the Taiwan Semiconductor Corporation makes the world's best, fastest, microchips in the world, and everything we have depends upon microchips. If they take that island, and they take those chip factories, and they get the foremen who know how to make them, it's going to be pretty bad. But it's going to be worse for Japan because they're going to have to take the Japanese islands. It's going to be worse for us if we don't defend it. Because again, just like Afghanistan, if we don't defend what we have. The people I talked to said a blockade or an invasion is likely anytime. South China Sea, I want to show you some examples here, but this is really important to them. I want to show you just what they've been doing down here in some of these Spratly Islands down there in the southern part of it. For over the last 10 years, they've basically created their own aircraft carriers at sea. You see that picture on the left is just a basic reef out there in the middle of the South China Sea. And 2 years later, they're starting to fill it in. 2021, you got a 10,000-foot runway in the middle of the ocean. Okay? Now, look what's there. Okay? That's real infrastructure. Veterans in here understand that. Okay? That takes time to build, and once you have it, that's real capability. And they haven't done this on one coral reef, they've done it on a half a dozen. And this all started during, in the 2010s, okay? During the last Democratic administration. And we just watched it happen, okay? Cruise missiles, they're intending to keep us away. They have lots of them, including an anti-ship ballistic missile that can go out about 5,000 miles and come down. It's intended to be the carrier killer. And they're practicing it. This is out in the Chinese desert, and the red outline is mine, but those holes represent a U.S. aircraft carrier flight deck. So they've not only building the capabilities, but they're out there practicing them as well too. Okay? How about numbers of ships? Again, Navy guy here. They're building 3 to 5 times the number of ships that we are every year. Okay? And their ships, when you look at them, they're almost a carbon copy of ours in capability because, again, they're stealing our technology. Their fighter planes are the same way. So they're looking at them that way. This is their aircraft carrier program. Listen to the music. Now, that wasn't created for a Chinese audience. That was created, again, just like Xi Jinping dog walking out his predecessor. That's intended for us. That should tick you off. It ticks me off a little bit. All right. Let's go back to our framework here for elements of national security. What I've tried to point out to you, the threat's high, not just on the military. The message I want you to walk away with here today is we need a strong military, but we have to start paying attention to what's going on with our government and our entire people, our economy, our media, our press, our drugs, our pharmaceuticals, everything, because China has a strategy to attack us through our government and through our people. That threat, if they can take us down without going to a military confrontation, they win, okay? And they know how to do that. They're manipulating the media every day. China has something called, we call it the 50-cent brigade. Okay? And it's kind of volunteers, but people get paid 50 cents equivalent for sending out a tweet. Okay? Because now Twitter isn't legal in China, except if you sign up for the 50-cent brigade to respond to the direction of the propaganda arm, the United Front, to send something out to America whenever we want you to. Okay? Whenever there's a protest or something, or pick your issue that they want to promote, they immediately task within seconds. Remember the Houston Rockets executive who got himself in trouble by sending out a pro-tweet about, hey, support Hong Kong? Within 30 minutes of him sending that out, there was about 5,000 pro-China tweets trying to cancel him. That didn't come from all the basketball fans in China. I mean, there are a lot of them, but that came from the Chinese Communist Party's 50-cent brigade saying, okay, we've got something here, let's take it out. And they become extremely sophisticated okay? They've studied our media. Students all across the country going to universities. They know what they're doing, and they're after us here. So be very careful on what you're reading and looking at, okay? So the threat's high on all these areas. And so I want to leave you on a little bit more positive note because as an intel officer, I always get accused of being so paranoid. Of course, you don't get to be a senior intel officer unless you are very paranoid about the threat, okay? Because you got to make sure the boss doesn't get surprised. But the last thing I'll leave you with here is what inspires me every day is talking to youngsters like this, particularly at an institution like at Liberty University where we pray in class every day and the kids are dedicated and this is our future, okay? But we have to have that full spectrum national security system, the people and the government and the military working together if we're going to protect this nation to continue to have where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my talk for you today.
And with that, let's give the Admiral a round of applause.
Thank you, sir.
Tony, thank you so much for being here.